In this video, I will teach you frameworks for investing. So what are investments? The reality is investments boil down to really two things that become one thing. Time. Time and your ability to earn and your ability to convert your skills and what you've been able to acquire over the years. And that could be in the amass of money or learning. Those are your assets. And the only way that you can do this is by lots and lots of practice. These assets, once you've converted them, they can do one of three things. They can gain money, gain in value, gain in an appreciation, or they can lose in all of the same facets. Similarly, you can have stability where it's more of a yield kind of thing. In the end, though, you're converting time spent into capital, and we call those assets. Now, your typical person is going to have a checking account, a retirement account, a savings account, a brokerage account. The brokerage account, not so much. If you're smart and you haven't opened one yet, go ahead, do it. Otherwise, your retirement account is typically based off of, number one, your own ambition, and number two, where you work. Where you work is probably the biggest determining factor if you have a 401k, which is the most typical thing, or if you work for the government where they're going to give you a 403b or 457 if you work, like, let's say, as a teacher, and you work for the state, or it's a rollover that went from where you were working at and you switched jobs and then you decided to roll that into another account. That's the rollover. Here's where it gets different. If you're a business owner, you now have a business interest, and this business interest can have a brokerage account, meaning you can take profit coming in or just cash coming in or whatever it is, and you can convert that into brokerage account money, stocks, bonds, that kind of stuff. Similarly, if you do it in a tax advantaged way, you could be putting that money for your retirement account. Depending on your structure, it's going to basically facilitate the kind of retirement plans you have available to you and the dollar amounts. Each different plan has different requirements on the business side, be it structurally, S Corp, C Corp, sole props, you have it, or it can just be how it's set up. Once you start acquiring enough assets, you can now purchase real property. And this real property can now give you tax credits, depending on what you're doing and how you use it, how you depreciate things, whether you're cash or accrual. Similarly, as the individual, you're still going to have access to your retirement accounts. You're still going to have access to a brokerage account. The only difference here is that business interest, which gives you access to retirement accounts, which then on your tax side is going to be a big difference from the individual, because there's this thing called the standardized deduction. If you're running a business, you're probably not standardized deduction. You're an itemized deduction person. That's a huge difference in the sense of you can now receive benefit for expensing money over the business, so long as you're tracking things correctly. All in all, assets have all of these criteria. They are in the education and skills department where you're building that up and your ability to charge changes. Business interests, autonomy and tax abilities changes drastically. Stocks and bonds, real property, tax credits, precious metals, even collectibles. For your stability type assets, we're talking treasury bills, municipal bonds, insurance contracts, and annuities. It all just depends on what we're doing and why we're doing things. Once you get to the high end level, you're going to notice that it comes down to two massive risks. It's the marketplace and it's behavioral. Behavioral can be things of your own nature, things from your own flaws as a person. It could also be what irrationality the marketplace has and the behavior of the herd. These are forces that you can't really do anything about except try to hedge and prepare for that black swan event. In a crisis, there's still going to be that marketplace, and it's going to be behavioral issues that are going to come about where you are going to be able to benefit if you've positioned yourself correctly for the macro or the micro. That's the marketplace that you have to be prepared for. And so the marketplace on that macro and micro scale, as they turn and change, is going to lay leverage over your risk. And as your risk changes, that's how you make financial decisions. So if you find yourself in a position of saying, hey, some of this seemed kind of interesting and maybe some of this flew over my head, but it sounded like it made a little bit of sense. Maybe my community might be for you. Maybe my community might not be. Ideally, my community is meant for a business owner who is trying to not only take care of the administrative business tasks that are necessary on the financial side, but also thinking ahead for the retirement and thinking ahead for how are they going to exit? How are they going to spend the rest of their time outside of business, with family, or generational planning? That's typically what I end up doing with family offices. If this seems interesting, check it out. Shoot me a message, email. Tell me what you need and I'll try to help you out. Take care.